Kohler here, and I want to talk to you about the Dynasty Trust. Now, as an attorney, I've drafted a lot of trusts for clients over the years, and the Dynasty Trust is a fun one. It's a unique one where our law firm over the last 15 years, we've really kind of tailored our practice to business planning and estate planning, and the Dynasty Trust is a wonderful fit for a lot of clients trying to leave a legacy. Now, I wanted to use the whiteboard to discuss where the Dynasty Trust fits, because it's not your typical estate plan. In fact, it complements it. Now, if you've watched some of my videos, you know where we're going with this. We're going to have your basic revocable living trust, or RLT, the foundation of your estate plan. And your trust is going to own, say, your S corporation, and it would own your LLCs for your rental properties, let's say, that sort of thing. And this is just your basic kind of three-legged stool. Your operations, your LLCs for rentals, and then your trust is the foundation. Now, off to the side, your trust would also own your primary residence, or your home. We might have some life insurance and investment accounts, and maybe even IRAs or 401ks flow into your trust upon your passing. We use a see-through type trust for that, or see-through provision in your trust. So all this flows into your trust. Now, where's the Dynasty Trust fit? So here's where I like to put the Dynasty Trust. We want to put it off to the side. It's not your foundation revocable living trust that has all sorts of provisions for the kids and your loved ones or spouse. And watch my other videos on the revocable living trust. Love it. It's in my YouTube channel. Please go subscribe. But the Dynasty Trust is going to be funded with different types of assets, and it can have a huge variety of assets in it. You might put real estate in it. You might have some life insurance fund it, maybe even a different policy than the one that you have going to your kids or grandkids or something. This could be a different type of life insurance policy that comes into here, and it funds it so that when you pass away, this trust is funded. And you could even carve out a certain percentage of your revocable living trust to come into the trust. And you may even say, I want a portion of my home equity to go into my trust. So when you design this, you complement your revocable living trust and say, hey, here's how I want to fund it. This is the first issue of a Dynasty Trust is, where's it going to go and what am I going to put into it? Now, I'll describe more about the trust here in a moment, but this key point is we want this Dynasty Trust to be, again, a complement to your revocable living trust, and we're going to define what monies go into it. And you might say, well, I want $1 million to go into this. I want $100,000 to go into it. But we'll figure this out as we design it as to how it's going to get funded. Now let's talk about kind of the features of a Dynasty Trust. The main thing about a Dynasty Trust is that it has a separate purpose, or a specific purpose from your revocable living trust. Typically what I've designed these for is education. You say, I want to leave a legacy for my kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids, blah, 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 blah. I want to have a specific purpose, maybe education. And I'm going to put money into this, and I want it to fund the tuition of all my posterity for the next 100 years, which brings us to point 2. The reason why it's called a Dynasty Trust is because it can last longer than a regular trust. The regular trust has this rule called the rule against perpetuities, where a trust, by definition, cannot be allowed to survive past 21 years past the last beneficiary. It has to end. This has been the rule for hundreds of years. Well, the Dynasty Trust is a rule that came about in certain states, and that's where we design it, is what state to use. That's a whole other topic. But we'll bring into the Dynasty Trust the provision that it can last for maybe 100 years or 150 years. You can set it up to last as long as you want, as long as it can survive. And this 100 years plus provision allows you to set up education funds for a certain dollar amount for 100 plus years, and goes into this trust to be spit out based on different rules. That you have to have a certain GPA, you have to be so old, and you can't live on it forever to go to college forever, or if you want to go back to college maybe. You can put all these different rules in this Dynasty Trust separate from your other estate plan to last more than 100 years and give it a specific purpose that could work. Okay, now the last point I wanted to make is that we call this a grantor trust. Now, without getting too technical, what this means is I don't want to set up a trust that's going to need a separate tax return, while you're alive at least. I want, while you're alive, to be able to control it, possibly even amend it, and I want to put a certain amount of dollars into it upon your passing or even maybe while you're alive, but I don't want to do a separate tax return. I want it to be a grantor trust where you still file your 1040 tax return and you're not signing up for a huge cost every year to maintain this thing. Now, if you want to set up an irrevocable trust for some asset protection or privacy or hide some money in a certain type of trust, all right, that's something that we can add to the Dynasty Trust as a feature. But most Dynasty Trusts are, you carve it out, you set it up, you put some money into it, there's no extra tax return, or you can fund it after your passing. Anyway, did I really call this a 2-minute tax and legal tip? I think I do, but I just go on and on because I have too much fun doing this. Please, folks, if you're interested in a Dynasty Trust, don't pound this out on Google trying to find a template. Get with a lawyer that can do it affordably. We do it in the range of $1,500 to $2,000 max. It can be very, very affordable to craft it to your situation. It's there for the rest of your life. You can do a little amendments or change it later if you want to, but our law firm would love to be of service if you need it. And shop around. Don't get soaked because you're wealthy or have a lot of money or this or that, so you have to pay more. This can be affordable no matter what price range of income you make every year or how much you're worth or how much you want to put into it. So shop around and enjoy leaving a legacy or a dynasty. Thanks so much for watching, and if you found that helpful, please look in the description below. I've got links to my tax and legal library, my QuickBooks training videos, how to start a small business, 50, 60, 70 videos, some as long as 30 minutes explaining more information on tax and legal strategies that will change your life. Also, if you'd like to subscribe to my newsletter or check out my social media links, please click here. They're weekly free tips and strategies and articles that you'll find extremely helpful. And I would appreciate it if you'd subscribe to my channel. I've got so many videos here I produce every week on my YouTube channel, and I'd love to give you a ping every time I shoot a new video. Thanks so much, and keep living the American dream.